this way, and I've got 3 questions. I'm Peter, yeah, go on.
You were mentioning about Michael Mucci presenting something in Parliament. How far are you getting with the European Union? Because also they could have influence in that direction. And the second thing is, although I was a bit late, so maybe I missed it, the other evening you mentioned about our idea of tax havens all being, you know, palm fringe places. I thought that if you could get Michael Moore to make a film, I mean, he's got the funds to visit, to give us this glorious view, and then to come in with these relevant points. I mean, like he's done with other things that have been of great influence.
The second one is actually something we are working on. We were working with one set of film producers, and I'm afraid to say their ideas just became ridiculous. It sort of became a crime movie rather than something which was really useful for campaigning. We did have a film made in America, but I'm afraid it's very American orientated and really would alienate any other audience. They just wouldn't relate to it. So yeah, we are now looking for another film. I mean, we do loads and loads of television and stuff. I mean, I didn't realise how much television I would do when I started this. I mean, I'd never been on television until I started this. I've now been involved in making 50 television documentaries at least. Yeah, you can listen to Question Time tonight if you want, but actually the person who wrote David Dimblety's questions tonight was largely by me, rather strangely, and so I've ghosted his questions tonight. So I do an awful lot of work with television these days, because they're mainly economic questions. So all the economic and tax questions which are going to come up tonight, I wrote the briefing. So I do a lot of work. I've got 2 Channel 4 documentaries running at the moment. Panorama on Monday night is featuring me. I haven't been on Channel 4 News since Tuesday. Was it Monday? So no, that happens. So we can get airtime. What we haven't ever managed to do is a full-scale documentary, you're right. European Parliament is fantastic for us. The European Greens and the European Socialists and Democrats and even the European Liberal Democrats or whatever, that's the ALD in Europe, I think it's the Association of Liberals and Democrats or something, have all been incredibly supportive. Country by country reporting has happened because of the European Parliament. They are incredibly aggressive on this issue. They're aggressive on wanting accounting. They are way ahead of just about any one of the countries. Perhaps because they actually can't pass law which has much impact, they pass really good law. But they are really very keen on these issues, vibrant and lots of support. So we've used the European Parliament for all it's worth. The Commission, of course, is not so enthusiastic, but I do have good access to Director Generals in tax in Europe, and we worked hard with them, and it's been quite successful. So Europe is actually, on this occasion, a force for good. And Europe has been the European Union has been the most effective attacker of tax havens in the world. Better than the OECD, better than the IMF, better than the World Bank, the European Union has had more impact than anybody else in attacking places like Jersey, Guernsey, Isle of Man, where the law has had to be changed by a combination of the European Union and me. Mind you, I got death threats from the Isle of Man for that one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, I do get death threats,
I've had my question on.
Okay. The most amusing one I had was when the head of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority announced that I was the head of the International Tax Taliban. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. The last place on earth you want to be when you're said to be a member of the Taliban is Washington, D.C. I was really pleased with it. Anyway, I'd like to...
Yeah, I'd like to ask how, if any, if you brought any pressure to bear on public finances. Things like Southern Cross and Four Seasons homes, they use lots of complex arrangements for their companies.
Yes.
And there was a report that looked somewhat into the role of Southern Cross by one of the Public Accounts Committee. Yeah. And they said the responsibility for looking at debt and a company's viability was with local authorities, but because local authorities have no ability to scrutinise that information. So I was wondering if there's been any representations about that to the Select Committee. Margaret Hodge has written about social care, but also about hospitals. They've written a recent report about PFI and hospitals. Seven of the hospitals. Yeah. They've said that the debt is so extreme that they're going to have to subsidise it. It's billions and billions of pounds. Arguably, it's led to the collapse of South London Healthcare Trust, which has gone bankrupt. Those PFI debts are held by things like Innisfree, Barclays Capital.
Offshore.
Offshore, exactly. offshore tax havens. Is there any work going on that? Southern Cross was a big collection of care homes that collapsed, and they will tell you that it was about separating the leases from the delivery of the company, which was half true. But the other side of the story is they were all private leveraged out with huge amounts of debts. And then that debt was sold off in credit default and separate companies, and that was a huge contributor. But that's not the story they usually tell you.
The answer is yes, but not as much as people like, for example, obviously on NHS PFI debt, the expert is Alison Pollock, and she's PFI, Public Finance Initiative. So Alison Pollock is the leader on this and knows vastly more about it than I do, and is absolutely brilliant. I mean, her courage is quite extraordinary. Can I tell my son I'm not able to, because I've been wanting to talk to him?
Right.
James, hello, I'm talking to a meeting in London. You've got 40 people hearing at the moment.
Hello, James.
They're all saying, hello, James.
How to do
James,
the
can you call Mum instead?
Fiddle. They teach them
Oh, really?
to say,
Have you tried the home
have all
number
your
instead?
assets on one side and the operating things.
Yeah?
So when the company
All right,
goes down,
I'll let her know and get her to
down,
call you, all right?
Friends of
Yeah,
my
right,
son
right,
at uni
right.
have been taught that in the last year. Sorry, shall we pass you on to the gentleman?
Sorry, but actually, can I just give you that I will be seeing Margaret on, I saw Margaret on Tuesday night, I will be seeing her on Monday morning,
Yes, South London Healthcare is presently
but it's not actually, I'm talking to her about other issues, but yeah, again, one of the weird things in Manila, I can now get access to people like that, and we do talk about it. They also actually, it's not just I can get access, they actually want us now. There's been a massive shift in the last 2 years.
South London Healthcare for consultation that's out for the next 28 days.
I doubt if I'll be able to do it, I'm just finite. I discovered at the age of 54 that I'm finite. There are only 19 hours in a day you can work, you have to sleep some.
Right, gentleman right at the back and then Peter.
You said the government was only able to represent the bank's debt that they inherited. How much do you estimate the bank's assets to be that the government also inherited? And the other part of the question is, for evasion, couldn't all companies have to put the methods of evasion that they use? In other words, if they don't pay the full tax, which assuming you can quantify how much they earned in the first place, they have to put on a public register, the tax office and public, the method of not paying the full tax. So,
okay, 2 questions. The part of the debt which, roughly speaking, really cost us money by taking over RBS and Lloyd's was about 50 to 60 billion pounds. So it's still a lot of money, but it's nothing like the 250, 300 billion that was put on the public, officially put on our total national debt as a result. So we did suffer real loss by taking over those 2 banks. The alternative was quite simply though, and let's be blunt about it, that on a Monday morning in October 2008, people would have gone to the cash point machine, put their card in it, and money wouldn't have come out. And you would say, oh, that's all right if you were Barclays, because you'd have got money. No, because you'd have tried to put your money in a cash point machine in Tesco's, whose processing was done by Lloyd's, and Lloyd's wasn't there to process your payment. In other words, we would have seen complete collapse of UK money supply. The reality of that was that on average there are only 9 meals in store cupboards in each household in this country at maximum. So therefore, 3 days later, we would have had food rioting. It's as simple and straightforward as that. The government knew it. That Monday was going to be a bank holiday if they hadn't solved the problem over that weekend, and the Tuesday would have been a bank holiday, and the Wednesday was going to be a bank holiday, until such time as they could have actually put the banks back up again. I mean, the government had no choice at that moment but actually bail them out. So we did that. The second part of your question, I've forgotten already.
it's assuming...
Oh, yes, about tax evasion. Look, well, they'll deny that they're doing anything. They'll just say we're using the allowances and relief, so they just say we're not doing it. There is actually in the accounts... Well, no, and let me finish. In the accounts now, there is required to be a reconciliation. They must publish a reconciliation between the official tax rate and the actual amount of tax they pay. I have read that reconciliation hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. They're always utterly meaningless. They mean nothing to me as an accountant. It's in there, you have to put it in. In the case of HSBC worldwide, they reconcile it using 3 numbers. Xstrata, which is a mineral company, put in 25 numbers. And you know, I can't make any sense of either of them, because they're all talking mumbo jumbo, they just get around the rules. The reality is, it's also that it's not the difference between the profit and the tax that matters, it's whether the profit's right that matters. And the real problem is that the profit isn't where it should be. So the profit, which, so for example, Starbucks, that's another of my stories. I mean, I'm responsible for the Starbucks story too, with Reuters this time. When I worked on that one with Tom Bergen. I don't know why they did it, because there's nothing in it for Reuters in that one, but anyway, it's great they did. The problem with Starbucks is that they just aren't recording their profits here. They're making profit here, they're not even recording the profit. So reconciling no tax to no profit is quite easy, actually. You know, 0 equals 0 is one of those sort of more fundamental accounting things that most people can handle. The point was that it shouldn't have been 0 profit, it should have been a positive profit, then would have had tax to argue about. So it's not a simple equation of reconcile the tax you're not paying, it's much, much more complex than that.
Right, Peter here, and down.